Good evening. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live. It's such a pleasure to be with you tonight. We welcome all of you that have tuned in, and we look forward to a wonderful journey for the next 20 minutes. Thank you for tuning in. We enjoy these Tuesday nights. Hopefully that you are blessed and helped during these talks and our time together on Tuesday night. So, let's go into a few announcements that we have. We have GED classes daily. You don't need to schedule. You can just come in. We're open from 8:30 to 4. So if you can come in anytime between those hours, we will help you get prepped for your GED and help you take the test, whatever that entails with us. If you need some funds to take the test, or whatever, we will help you and prepare you, give you practice tests, and get you ready to get your GED. That's an exciting time to do that. If you did not graduate from high school, it will help you immensely in the job market and your self-esteem. We also have PTSD group meetings, not only for those that have combat trauma and moral injury that they had during the time of war that they spent. We also have PTSD for those that just have trauma in their life. Maybe you were sexually abused, physically abused, in a horrible car wreck, your mother and dad died, whatever created trauma in your life, we're here to help you and overcome those things so that life is not so difficult for you. Also, we have PTSD for first responders because you see a lot of different things and sometimes it affects our lives. So we would love to have you come and participate in our PTSD program. Just come in and we'll get you signed up and scheduled to do that. We have what we call a curriculum called Reboot, and it's a wonderful curriculum. It's a 12-week course and 2 hours once a week for 12 weeks. So we would love to have you come in for that. We also have job readiness class. We have help for you if you need resumes, if you need some help in training, and also if you need some help in interviewing, those things, or if you need some just technical help, whatever you might need to get you ready to go to work, we're here for you. Going to work will help you immensely, mentally, and physically. So we'll help you with that, and we'll also, if you need us to assist you, we will help you find employment for whatever type of employment you want. We're not going to dictate to you what you need to do or what you want to do, but we will help you do what you desire to do and find that special place for you that you have always been looking for. So, we're glad to have that with us. The next thing is we have it's called a Joyous app. It's for people that have mental health issues. And so you can go online, go to the Apple Store, go to whatever store you have to download the app, the Joyous app. You can see it on your screen and go and download it and begin participating in that. It will assess you every day. We'll talk to you about your moods. It has over 500 different 3 or 4 minute videos to help you for whatever issue is in your life that day. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's fear, maybe it's bipolar, whatever it may be that you have. If you'll go to this Joyous app, and we would appreciate when you go there if you would put in COVID-19, which will help us track you. It's totally HIPAA compliant. I will not know who you are. No one will know who you are, but we will be able to see that you participated anonymously in this wonderful app to help you through your day. So we ask you to participate in that, and it will help you and assist you. And we're also here for you if you want to come in for counseling, for substance abuse or mental health issues or anxiety or whatever you may have that is plaguing your life, we are here to help you and bring joy back into your life and help you overcome those things such as paranoia and anxiety, whatever may be happening in your life. So let's get going tonight. We're going to talk about tonight, can God change the past? One thing about it, we all have a past. Some of our past is good things. Some of our past is not so good a thing. Some of our past, we created problems for ourselves. Some of our past, other people abused us, used us, caused problems for us, created issues in our lives, and we were not able to overcome those things. Especially as a child, you have not much control over your life. But if you made the wrong decisions also in your life, because of maybe what happened to you, we want to know, can God change the past? I believe he can. So, let's get going. There was a guy named Moses years and years ago. He was born in a time of slavery in Egypt several thousand years ago. And the Pharaoh had all these people that were called Hebrews as slaves. There was about 600, 700,000 of them, and the men were made to slaves. And of course, they all lived together in a community called Goshen, and they had families. I don't know what type of housing they had, but they all had housing. I think they were quite simple. They were not like that. So they had to, what Pharaoh had them doing is building cities for him and building palaces for him and building shrines to his gods and different sanctuaries to where they could go worship their gods. They had a lot of different gods that they worship. One of them was the sun god. But anyway, they were slaves and they built those things, and they were quite cruel to them and beat them. And Moses, they decided, the Egyptians decided that there were being too many Hebrews, and if the enemy attacked them, the Hebrews might join them and cause them to be defeated. So they put out a decree, the Pharaoh did, the ruler of Egypt, put out a decree that all the boy babies that were born was to be killed immediately. Girls were okay, but boys were supposed to be killed immediately. There was this one family that had this young child, and they named him, I don't know what they named the child. But anyway, they protected him for about 3 months, and the Egyptians came around occasionally and inspect the houses for children, especially male babies, and if they found them, they killed them. But his mother and dad hid this young child for 3 months, and the Egyptians came around, but they had him hid so well that they didn't find him, and the child didn't cry while they were there, so they didn't discover him. So after 3 months, they couldn't hide him any longer. So his mother made a little basket for him and put pitch inside, which is like tire, T-A-R, okay, and the outside, and made it where it would float, and put cushions in it and blankets in it, and put a blanket over the top of it, and took Moses down to the Nile River and put him in the Nile River. Now, the Nile River was a place with, I think, crocodiles and different things, but they put him in some reeds there and put his little basket in there, intending to hide him. Well, of course, back then they didn't have bathrooms like we do now, so the princess of Egypt, the Pharaoh's daughter, came down with her entourage to the Nile River to bathe after they had put Moses in the river. And as she was bathing, she heard this baby crying and sent one of her attendants over to see what was going on, and they found this little baby there. And when she saw the baby, little boy baby, she had just an instant love for him. And she just loved him instantly. And she said, I'm going to take this baby and make him my own, adopt him. And she said, I'm going to name him Moses because I drew him out of the water. So this princess took Moses home to the palace where the Pharaoh was and all those, and raised him with the best schools and all the different amenities that are in a king's house. And Moses was raised in the king's house. Now, tradition tells us that Moses, one of the wise men of Egypt, told Pharaoh that this child would someday destroy him and rule over him. So they come up with this deal that to put a hot coal of fire in front of Moses, and if he picked it up, then he would not be a threat to Pharaoh. He picked it up and put it to his mouth, and it says he stuttered from that point onward. But anyway, he escaped being killed at that young age. So, as Moses grew up in the land of Egypt, and there one day he went out to see what was going on and saw the Hebrews as slaves. I don't know if he had seen them before or not, but anyway, this particular day he saw a Egyptian taskmaster beating a Hebrew, and it angered Moses because actually he was a Hebrew, not an Egyptian, even though he appeared to look like an Egyptian, spoke Egyptian, and all those things. And history tells us that he was a great general in the army and led the armies of Egypt to many victories. But this day, evidently, he was a buff guy. He was strong. He was strong-willed. He was a leader. And as this Egyptian beat this Hebrew, Moses looked around and killed the Egyptian, buried him in the sand. And so a few days later, Moses was back out seeing what was going on again, and there were two Hebrews fighting, and he broke them up, and the one that was in the wrong said, "Are you going to kill me like you did the Egyptian?" So Moses knew that his murderous secret was out, and he ran away so he would protect his life. And he went to a land called Midian and met some ladies there, and they took him home, and their father was named Jethro, and he was a priest. And Moses moved into their house and eventually married one of his daughters. And Moses became a shepherd, herded sheep every day. He started out at 40 years old, and for 40 years he herded sheep in that area. It's kind of a wilderness area. He herded sheep. And he became 80 years old. He thought his life, I guess, was over. 80 years old, I don't know how long most people lived in those days. But anyway, we find out that one day he was going with his sheep, and he saw a bush that was burning. And it wasn't too abnormal, they tell me, or as you study. But this one was unique because even though it was on fire, it was not being destroyed. The leaves were staying green and the bush was not being consumed. So he said, "I'm going to go check this out." So he turns aside and a voice comes out of the bush. So that would be startling. I've never had a bush talk to me. There used to be a song that go tell it to a talking tree and something else, and if they agree, I'll take you back to me. But anyway, that's off the subject. But anyway, this voice come out of this bush and said, "Hello, Moses. Take your shoes off because you're at on holy ground." Now, it hadn't been holy ever before. What was the difference is that God was there. Wherever God is holy. Wherever he's not is not necessarily holy. So if God is in us, we're holy. If he's not in us, we're not holy, okay? We're his son, but we're not holy. So Moses turned aside, put his shoes off, and the voice began to talk to him and told him that it was God. And God said, "I want you to go back to Egypt and deliver all the Hebrews from the hand of Pharaoh." Now Moses had run from Pharaoh because a bounty was on his head, and they were looking to find him. Today we would call it a warrant. And they were looking to find him so they could execute him. But anyway, he said, I can't go back there, and I can't do that. I'm 80 years old, God. I can't do all that. I'm not qualified. I can't speak well. I stutter. Moses had all kind of excuses, and he had a rod in his hand, which is cut out of a tree limb, and cleaned it all up, and he carried that rod with him to protect his sheep with if something tried to get him, a wolf or anything like that. He carried that rod to help him. And this voice said, well, what do you got in your hand, buddy? And Moses, well, I got this rod. And he said, well, throw it down. So Moses threw it down, and it became this big old snake. I think this rod he had was big, so it became a big old snake. Moses ran away, which I would have too, probably you too. And anyway, God told him to go back and pick it up by the tail. So he snuck over there and picked it up by the tail, and it became a rod again. And Moses still wasn't convinced, so he told Moses, stick your hand under your shirt. And Moses stuck his hand under his shirt, and he pulled it out, and it was all white, and it was leprous, which leprous skin falls off and ends up with your bones. That's it. And he told Moses to put it back under his shirt. He did, and he pulled it out again, and it was the same as it was before. So Moses argued with God, and he said, well, what's your name? And the voice said, my name is I Am. Now we're talking about, can God change the past? Can God change the past? So what was Moses' past? Moses' past was living in the palace, but his real past was murderer. He was a murderer. He had a bounty on his head, as I said. He had a warrant out. They were looking for him. He couldn't go back to Egypt. God said, I am anything you need. Moses said, well, I can't speak well. And finally the voice said, God said, okay, your brother Aaron is very eloquent. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll tell you what I want you to say to Pharaoh, and you tell your brother Aaron, and he will tell Pharaoh. So they finally negotiated, and Moses agreed to go back to Egypt. So he went back, took his sheep back, went back to Jethro's house, got his wife Zipporah, and they started heading down to Egypt. So when he got to Egypt, he went in and, so what did he have in his hand? That's all he took. This Pharaoh had this big army, all these soldiers, all these wise men. Moses and Aaron was nothing outside all these people. But what did he have in his hand? It's just been a rod for 40 years. But he had power. He had power in his hand. So what has your life been like? Step one of the 12 steps in AA said, I'm powerless over alcohol, and my life has become uncontrollable. Powerless. Most of us are powerless. We have no power in our lives. We have no power to change things. We do need an I am. We need somebody that is an I am, that they can be whatever we need. If we need food, if we need skills, if we need wisdom, if we need knowledge, that's what God is to us. That's what I am is. I am is anything you need. So our lives may have been powerless. We may have no control over our lives. Things might have went south on us. Maybe we have warrants out. Whatever it is that we have, what is our past? Did we have no control as a child? We were beaten, sexually abused, as I said a while ago. Whatever may have happened, the teachers called us stupid. We were bullied in school. We had no power. God said, what you got in your hand. What you got in your hand. God wants you to know that if you've been powerless in the past and all you had is a stick, now you have power. God will put power in your hand that you can live a life of overcoming. You can live a life that is great and wonderful. No longer powerless. no longer under other people's control, but you live a life of power, not of power to beat up people and to abuse people. That's not what God gives us power for. God gives us power to help other people get their lives together, overcome in their lives, whatever it may be. That's what God gives us power for. All these slaves in Egypt, these Hebrews, they've been praying to God, deliver me. Have you ever heard stories about people that were addicted to some type of drugs or anything, and they were in the hospital in ICU dying? And God had never helped them before. And you hear stories about people that say, God, if you really exist, come down and come into my life and save me from death and destruction. And we read stories, not everybody, but we read stories of people that God just slam dunked himself into their life and healed them and changed them and revived them and renewed them and took away all the old past, took it away from them and made their life new, give them power to live a life of greatness and skill. I'm not going to finish tonight. We will continue this next week, but I got one more thing I want to say to you. When they were researching and going into the pyramids in Egypt and opening all those deals and finding the mummies and everything, there was one particular pyramid that they went in and they found where the Pharaoh was buried, and they found a seed. Now, where he was buried was way down in the earth, and there was total darkness. And they found this seed. I don't know what kind of seed it was, but they found this seed. Maybe it was wheat, maybe it was barley, maybe it was corn. I don't know. They took this seed out of this darkness, carried it to the surface, and planted it in soil in the light. And the seed grew. It had been dormant in darkness for 4,000 years. Has your life been in darkness and you have not grown and you have been hidden and your life has been horrible? I can tell you that God will help you. There's a parable about the sower with seeds, and it said some fell by the wayside on hard ground, and it didn't grow. It didn't grow. The seeds that fell on good ground grew, but those seeds didn't grow. They were on hard ground. Birds came and eat them. Have you ever driven out in the country where there's power lines out going across fields and stuff, and under all those power lines there's trees? You ever wonder why those trees were there? Because birds eat seeds and crap them and land on those electrical lines and crap them on the ground, and those seeds are fertilized and they grow because they're crap them in soil. Excuse my language. So it doesn't matter if when the sower sowed the seed that it didn't fall on good ground and didn't grow. The birds come along and picked you up and took you someplace and planted you so you could grow. That's what God does. He takes you from the hard soil, from the hard life, from all the bad things that happen to you, and replants you so you can grow and become a tree. That's what God does. Can God change the past? Absolutely. He can change the past. Let's look at one more thing before we go. Okay? Here's the past. Here's an old tree. Here's the new car. That's what God does. He changes the past. Let's look at something else. Say you had a BMW and you crashed it. And then you took it to the body shop, the collision center, and they restored this car and instead of looking like it's crashed like on the left, look at the right side. The car's been completely restored. Hey, the past has changed. You can't ever tell it was wrecked. It's made new. Is your life crashed? Come to God. He'll renew your life, rebuild you, make you look like new again. That's what God will do for you. So God bless you. We got let me show you that. I didn't show it to you. Here it is. The crashed BMW and the restored BMW. God will restore you. So that's what God does. So I went over time, but it's time to go. I'm so sad that we got to go. But I tell you what, show up next Tuesday and we'll continue this story about can God change the past.